Hanging out with my man, Kenny Bayless.
Yes, sir.
Because everybody's got an opinion about us. What we did, what we didn't do. And so what this is going to give us an opportunity to do is let people know exactly what it is we do and why we do it. I see this show as an opportunity to bring people out there into the ring and into our mind as officials.
Yes.
They're going to actually be in the ring and in our mind. And I think that's a wonderful place to be because it's really going to give them brilliant insight into what it is we do and why we do it.
Which takes us to you. Tell us a little about how you got started.
You know, it's interesting because I never thought in my wildest dreams that I would be a boxing official. But I began boxing back in Chicago where I grew up.
Yep.
And after I graduated from high school, went to the Marine Corps. That's where I started really boxing. And met a couple of guys that went on to become pretty famous.
Mm-hmm.
Richard Steele, probably one of the best referees ever, step in the ring. Kenny Norton went on to become heavyweight champion of the world. And I had won a title, 139-pound title, when I was in the Marine Corps. I thought my career was over. But when I came out, went into law enforcement. And about 6 years into my law enforcement career, they came out with a thing called the Police Olympics.
Right.
And I'm saying, you know, I think I could go out and whoop some of these young boys, you know? So I entered it. And
Right.
Sure enough, I did.
Right.
Got into Police Olympics, won a couple of golds, a bronze and a silver. And then I said, no, I'm getting too old for this.
Right.
So then I said, I'm going to let this go. Well, in the meantime, I had gotten into law enforcement.
Right.
And this particular day, I was flying back from Sacramento. We had flown the governor up to Sacramento.
Right.
And I was flying back home to LA. And on the plane, when I got to the airport, there was a lady there, Miss Eileen Eden.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Eileen Eden, for those who don't know, was the owner and promoter at the iconic Olympic Auditorium in LA.
Auditorium.
Now they had better fights in the audience. They had better fights in the audience.
I remember those
at the Olympic Auditorium
yes,
than they
sir.
did in the ring sometimes.
Yes, sir.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
But at any rate, she had had surgery, and so since we were flying back and forth so much, I went and talked to the lady. And I said maybe we can get her pre-boarded, and so that's what I did. Went up to the lady and we got her pre-boarded, and so now I think that's it. Right. Well, that wasn't it. Because when I got on the plane, hey, come here, because that's the way she talk. Right. You know, she's a rough lady, man. Smoke camels. Right. She tough old lady. Come here, sit down. And so now I'm stuck for an hour because the hour flight back to LA. But at any rate, we talked about boxing. I told her a little bit about myself. And she said, but you know what? You should be a referee. I said, man, I don't know anything about refereeing.
Right.
She said, you should be a referee. And I said, well, okay, fine. That lady called the executive officer for the California State Athletic Commission and told him, you contact him, have him come up and take the test. And so he called me and said, I'm talking to Miss Eden, and she said, for you to come up and take the test.
Right.
So I did. I went up to the office and I took the test. I passed the test.
Right.
And I thought, okay, now I've done that.
Right.
And so that wasn't enough.
Mm-hmm.
Then what she wanted me to do, you go out and see Richard Steele. I understand you guys fought together when y'all was in the Marine Corps. And I want you to go out to the gym. and I want you to work with him. And that's what I did. I went down. I'm hooked up with Richard, and Richard said, "Oh, he told you come down." I said, "Yeah." He said, "You met the leader?" "Yeah, I did." And so, so we he started teaching me the ropes, you know, about being a referee.
Right.
And you know, I learned and I took it all in, and because I didn't think I was going to do anything was going to come from it.
Right.
You know, they said, "Hey, Byrd, I need a favor." Well, yeah, you know, what you need? He said, I got this tournament. It's a PAL tournament, and I need you to come and just do some refereeing. And I said, "Man, you know, all right, because as a favor to you, I do it."
Right.
And so I did. It was at the LA Police Academy, and it was kids, little kids.
Yeah.
And I got there and I looked at that and I said, "Well, this can't be too hard, you know." So yeah, and I got in there, man, and I swear to God, just watching them kids because they're so honest.
Yes, it
They're
is.
just so honest.
Yes, they are.
Them gloves were almost big as they
Big
were.
as they were.
You know? And so they swinging and they look out and orders at their mama or their daddy or whatever and get bopped upside the head. So,
Exactly.
you know, and that was it. That did it for me.
Right.
I fell in love with it right then. And every time he called me after that, said, "Hey, can you help me out?" I was right
You was
there,
there.
you know.
Good.
And that's what I did.
Yeah.
You know, that's how I got started in it.
Good. Well, my story is a little different. You know, I was born and raised in Berkeley, California, and was recruited to Las Vegas as a school teacher.
Oh.
So I get here in August. Of '72, and in February of '73, Muhammad Ali is fighting a guy by the name of Joe Butler at the old convention center.
I remember that fight.
And I had grew up watching Muhammad Ali on my mom's black and white television. So I knew the whole Muhammad Ali Howard Cosell act. And so I ended up, first I went and watched Ali train at Caesar's Palace. During the daytime, they put a ring up in the main showroom, and Ali would train in the main showroom days prior to the fight. So that was when I first saw him, and I was blown away because he was entertaining the fans. Like, I mean, you only had to pay $1 for a donation, but that was, for me, better than watching Frank Sinatra. So the night of the fight, me and my cousin are standing out in front of the convention center because I can't afford to go to the fight.
I know that's right.
And a friend of my mom's came up and saw me from behind and said, "Bayless, what are you doing here?" And I turned around. His name is Henry Winston. Henry Winston had ties with George Foreman back in the day.
Oh.
And Henry said, "Bayless, what are you doing here?" And I said, "I live here now." The very next thing he said, Byrd, changed my life. He said, "Do you have a ticket to the fight?" And I said, "No, I don't." He reached into his inside pocket and pulled out and gave me 2 tickets. I took them 2 tickets, gave one to my cousin, and the next thing I knew, I was inside the convention center. Ali! 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 That blew me away.
Yeah.
And I mean, goosebumps. I mean, all of it happened in the convention center. So from that point on, I would go to every fight card in Nevada, Las Vegas, every one. I'd sneak in, whatever it took, I'd get in. And then I consider myself, so the easiest thing to me that I could get involved in was judging. So I got involved with the amateur Golden Gloves.
Oh.
And when the fight was over and they announced the scores, I'd go up to the judges and compare my score to their score.
Is yours better than theirs?
Well, I'll tell you, the judge was one of the judges that I went up to was Jerry Ross.
Oh, mercy.
And Jerry Ross said to me one time, he says, "Hey, you appear to stay in pretty good shape. Why don't you try refereeing?" And my first thought, just like yours, I am not getting in that ring with them guys. No way. So I asked Richard Steele, because Richard had moved from LA
Yeah.
to Las Vegas, and Richard agreed to work with me. So he took me to Hal Miller's gym, amateur gym, and same thing. I got in there with them kids, and they got them big balloon gloves, and they can't hurt each other because the balloons are the gloves are
Big as they are.
big as they are,
Yeah.
16, 18 ounces, and that's how I got started, and the rest is history.
Yeah.
And the history part of the rest is a long story in a sense, but I can share that at another time.
I hear you. I hear you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We witnessed a fight a few weeks ago, which became controversial. And the reason why it became controversial is because of the decision of the referee at the time ended up factoring in on the scoring of the bout. And because of that, a fighter that people feel that should have won did not win because of how things went down, which we're going to talk about, and that is the Tank Davis Roach fight.
Oh, yeah.
And during the course of the fight, I believe it was the 9th round, the fight was very, very intense. Blows were being thrown on both sides. Punches were landed on both sides. And going into the 9th round, from what I could view from watching the fight, not at the time it happened, but later on, that it was close. And all of a sudden, kind of out of nowhere, Tank Davis takes a knee. Now,
Should have been a knockdown, right?
which should have been a knockdown, because, you know, in the rule book, it states that anything other than the soles of your feet that touch the ground is deemed a knockdown. And the referee, Steve Willis, I believe his initial intent was to call it a knockdown, because when you look at the videotape, you could see him start to count. But the one thing that I think may have threw Steve off was Tank goes to a knee, and then he gets up and he walks to his corner. Now, I've had that happen to me before, fighter taking a knee, but he stays down and takes the full mandatory 8 count so that he can get his head right, even if he was fatiguing a little bit and wanted to get a little rest. But in this sense, Tank gets up, goes to his corner. He goes to one side of the pole on his corner, and then he goes to the other side, and his corner man reaches up and kind of pats his face as if something was, you know, in his eye, which he claims that's what it was.
Now, you know, I saw a clip of that fight, and I
Okay.
saw exactly the same thing you saw. And I'm saying to myself, because I would never be critical of another referee, but what I'm thinking is that there is no timeout in the game of boxing unless the referee or the commission calls it. And so essentially that's what that boiled down to.
Yeah.
And but there's a precedent.
Yeah.
There was a precedent for what occurred, because what I understood from that fight was that Tank was saying there was something in his eye. He got something in his eye,
Right.
and that's the reason why he went over.
Right.
And the corner came up to wipe something out of his eye, which between you and I, that should never have happened either.
Right.
But there was a precedent for that.
Yes.
Because if you go back all the way back to Cassius Clay versus Sonny Liston 1,
Yes.
when there was some kind of substance on Liston's gloves that got in all these eyes,
Yes.
and he wanted them to stop the fight and quit and everything. And Angelo Dundee told him, go back out there and keep on sticking and move around.
Yes.
And we'll wash your eyes out when you come to the edge. So,
Yes.
so there's a precedent had been set for that kind of scenario. I don't know that the referee was thinking about that at that time, but that's why it's important, I think, as officials, to understand the history of your game.
Yes, and not only the history of the game, to further act on what happened is after Tank's face was wiped off, Steve stepped in and then basically said to him, "Don't do that," because it could be ruled as a knockdown. Now, you couldn't totally clear exactly what Steve was saying, but it was like a soft warning, or one could say a hard warning, don't do it again.
Mm-hmm.
And then at that point, the fight continued, and the controversy that again I mentioned earlier was the fact that if Steve had have counted it a knockdown, that would have been a point deduction on Tank Davis's score, and two of the judges had the fight even, whereas if that 1 point deduction had been added, to the knockdown, then Tank would have lost the fight.
And the thing about as an official, you never ever want to be the reason for the controversy in the fight. So from that standpoint, because I think had the knockdown been called, there would have been no controversy at all. And to your point, that kid probably would have won the fight, and that would have given him an opportunity to make a lot more money in his next fight, because he would have been going into it as a champion, not as a contender.
Exactly.
Now, there's a lot of stuff going around, a lot of buzz going around, and what I'm understanding is that Dana White, UFC, is talking about getting involved in boxing.
Yes.
And I believe that he wants to do this in conjunction with the guy from Turkey.
Mr. Turkey?
Over in the Middle East.
Or His Excellency.
And a lot of people are kind of, looking at this thing, but, truthfully, Dana White has a history in terms of dealing with boxing, because under the old umbrella of Zuffa, he promoted a couple of boxing matches as I recall.
Right.
And I've been out to that training facility, and there's a nice ring there.
The one off of 215.
Right. That boxers go to work out and train. I've been there with a number of boxers. Wilder trained there when he was here training for his fight. Badu Jack, he trained there for his fight. So boxers know where it is. And they're utilizing it. So, and truthfully, in UFC, they call it strikes. But in boxing, we call it, punching.
Right.
But in UFC, they call it strikes, and it's akin to boxing.
Yeah.
So I don't really see a disconnect to it. I think it's just an extension.
Yeah, I kind of see it the same way, because the big thing for me, I've met Mr. Turkey. The guy is phenomenal. I mean, I was actually invited to Saudi Arabia, and me and my wife, and he took care of everything.
Mhm.
I mean, when you hear the saying, money is no object, to him, money is no object.
Mm.
And if him and Dana White make this happen, the only thing for me to look at is that it's for the better. I've been in conversation with people in regards to, fighters don't usually get a pension because they're
Mhm. Yeah,
independent.
right.
They don't have a pension plan or anything like that. Plus, I've been in conversations with people talking about when a fighter retires and 10 years later, his health
Mhm.
and what happens to that. I would hope that Mr. Turkey and Mr. White could address those issues.
Mm.
And I know those issues have been addressed before, but nothing really stronghold has been done about it. But they're in a position that they can make some noise in that area.
Yeah. Well, you know what? The sad part about this is that the move is taking boxing away from the United States,
Yeah,
in particular in Las Vegas,
yeah,
which for years has been known
yeah.
as the boxing capital of the world.
Yes.
Um, it's many of the major fights now
Yeah.
are moving in that direction,
Yes.
and I think the UFC model that Dana White has promoted and brought about, matching fighters. They do some great matchmaking
Yeah.
in UFC. So I can see the connect.
Yeah.
I can see the connect, and I think that if UFC manages the boxing arm of their organization, similar to the UFC arm,
Mhm.
then it's going to be pretty pretty successful.
Yeah. Yes, can be. These are the type of things, events, New York, Times Square. Now, how they can make that happen will be something to see in Times Square.
Wow.
Um,
Well, they do the New Year's Eve
they
celebration
do
every year, I
that,
think.
yes, but people can just
Yeah.
walk up from anywhere at any time. So, y- y- yeah, I can't imagine how they can do it, but I'm sure they got in their mind how they're going to do it.
Well, uh, in that same vein, Dana White put on a show at the Spear here in Las Vegas,
Yes.
and obviously I wasn't a part of that.
Obviously, I wasn't a part of it either.
but everybody that I talked to who was involved with it, and a couple that actually were there,
Mhm.
said it was the most extraordinary thing that they'd ever been a part of
Right.
and witnessed.
Yes.
So and when they did the show in Los Angeles,
Hmm.
well, the Turkish guy, they did
Yes.
show over there. They remember they did the concert. They had like
Yes.
a concert
Yes.
right before the fight. So it seems to me what he's doing is marrying entertainment and boxing, which
Yes.
has always been the case anyway.
Yes.
But he is really putting a new face on blending these two things together.
Yes. Yeah. When you look at the sphere itself, is it's a magical marvel anyway.
True that.
And then to put a fight in there, I can imagine what that was like. I mean, because like you said, I wasn't there, you wasn't there, so only thing we can do is just hear from people that were there.
That's it.
But if they choose to do extraordinary fights of that magnitude, uh, it's gonna make some noise because His Excellency Turkey's first fight, which I happened to go to with Tyson Fury and this kid in Ngannou, they had a ring come up out of the ground for the main event. The ring came up from the ground up, and you're just sitting there saying, "Are you kidding me?" But that's the kind of stuff that they are capable of doing. A
whole
20-foot ring came up out of the ground before a Fury and the referee and his opponent and all the particulars lined around it, from the judges to the announcers, you name it.
Man.
And you know, back in the day, and I'm talking about back in the 80s, late 70s, but back in the 80s when Don King and Top Rank used to do their shows, they used to have fight parties afterward, and you could see the most unbelievable thing at these fight parties. They would feed you, wine and dine you, and it was just worth being a part of the sport.
Yeah.
Back in that time period.
Well, the good thing about all of this is that there are people who say that boxing is dying.
Yeah.
But based upon what this young man is doing,
Yeah.
Turkey, what he is doing, boxing is definitely alive.
Yeah.
And well.
Yes.
And growing.
And growing. And on this show that at Madison, or at the Times Square, Ryan Garcia is going to be fighting Romero, and then Devin Haney, he is going to be fighting Jose Ramirez. That should be a good one.
It'll be interesting because the Romero fight, I know it's a rematch, and I can't remember what happened in the first fight.
Garcia won the first fight, I believe.
Okay. So it must have been close. That's why they're doing the rematch.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think so, yes. Yeah.
Much like the Gervonta fight, with all the controversy, you would think that, a rematch of that fight would be the perfect way to silence all the controversy that's been going on. That would be the fair thing to do.
Yes.
If in today's age you want to do that, because Gervonta is A side. We all know that. He's A side. So he can say, I don't care if they take the belt away from me.
Yes.
Because he can go and fight somebody else and make him a lot more money.
Yes.
But that nasty taste will still be there because of the controversial way that the fight ended.
Right. Yes.
And so the fairest thing to do would be to do a rematch and silence everybody.
Right.
About anything.
Yes. And I'm sure you've seen it, and I'll admit the first time I saw this slap boxing, the first thing that came to my mind was, are you kidding me? That a person would stand and that a person with an open hand hit them as hard as they could. And then they can reciprocate back if they were able to get up if they went down, and or if they had the strength to do it from getting popped by an open hand.
Let me tell you this, Kenny. No matter what you think, this thing is growing.
Yes.
Power slap is growing.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
I mean, people love to see it, But the big question I get asked is power slap a sport? And my answer is, and this has to be from a pragmatic view. Yes, it is a sport, and the reason I say that is because the athletic commission sanctioned it.
Yes.
Now, and that differs from
Yes.
like WWE, okay,
Yes.
which they basically said is entertainment,
Yes.
and the winners are predetermined. So that's the reason why they don't do that. But in Power Slap, yeah, the commissions have sanctioned it, and therefore it is a sport, a qualified sport.
Yeah. But correct me. Did it originate in Germany first before it came to the States?
You know what?
Or in Europe, somewhere in Europe. Okay.
It did originate in Europe, but it's really grown. It came over here. But I can tell you this, that for the present, the only place that it's being done in the States is in Nevada.
Okay.
California, a couple other states have sent people over to witness it,
yes,
and monitor it,
yes,
because they're thinking about bringing it into their states. But it's already gone global. It's already gone to the Mideast. They've had 2 shows over there.
Yes.
And from what I understand, both of those shows were sold out.
Right.
So it's really it's growing.
Yeah.
It's really growing. Now I like you. I thought because I'm an old boy from the streets.
Right.
And in the streets, if you come up and hit me with your fist, sock me, then okay, we can talk. Why'd you do that? But if you come up and slap me, oh, it's on. It is on. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
So
yes.
that didn't resonate with me.
Right.
And the thing about it is, it can't be a sport because only one person is doing it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You get slapped, and the bottom line is there's no defense, because any defensive move you make in Power Slap is a foul.
Yes.
So I just don't see it being a combat sport. You know what I'm saying?
Yes. From what I've heard from an official that does Power Slap, they have their rules as to how the arm swings, and there's some traditional stuff that Power Slappers rules that they have to abide by. But what competitively does it bring when you just stand there and let a person hit you? Just hit you, slap you, and then you reciprocate if you take the slap. Now, I know that they have a rod or something that they hold behind their back. I don't know if that's for balance or for what, but they hold this rod behind their backs, and once they get hit, if they go down, the referee apparently gives them a certain amount of time. I don't think it's a mandatory 8 count, but they do get a certain amount of time, and then they get to stand up and reciprocate back with a slap. And yeah, I if it's making money, and that's the bottom line to all of it. If it's making money, then that's the bottom line.
That's it. That's
it.
If
it's 2 chickens out there scrapping, and you can make money with 2 chickens out there scrapping,
scrap on.
Get all the chickens. Get all the chickens you can.
Scrap on.
Yeah. Yeah.
The evolution of women in boxing, how it's come about. There's been some good scraps out there.
Yes.
Between women. Now they say that there's a trilogy coming up between 2 of the modern day greats. Katie Taylor and Amanda Serranos. They're supposed to get together for a third fight on an all women's card.
Right.
All women.
Right.
You know. So what do you think? Who wins that fight?
Well, they fought twice. Both fights were barn burners. In the second fight, I believe it was Taylor. She comes forward with her head. I'm not saying that it was intentional, but Serrano got cut. And I personally felt that Serrano aggressiveness and style dropped a notch. And she ended up losing the second fight. And I think the third fight is going to be just as good. When you got two fighters that are coming forward that's their style. To me, it's like flipping a coin. Head is for Taylor, tails is for Serrano, because that's just how evenly matched the two are.
Yeah.
In my opinion.
Well, I've probably seen it, but I can't really recall them. But I was just thinking back in my mind some fights, women that I would have loved to have seen. And one would be Layla Ali and Ann Wolf.
Yes.
Or Lucia Riker and Christy Martin.
Lucille Riker, yes.
And you know, in that fight, that was going to be the first $1 million fight between females.
Yeah.
And because I remember I saw Lucia Riker, she was training up here at Top Rank. And she was really looking forward to it because she has really kind of unorthodox training thing. She had this rod and she would just shake it. She would stand there and just shake this rod. And all the time we were talking, she would just run in. I'm saying, my arms got tired just looking at her doing that, you know? And, and all the time she was just talking, man.
Yeah.
And to me, she was probably the toughest female fighter ever. I had the opportunity to do 2 or 3 of her fights. And whew, she was something.
Yes.
But I really would have liked to see Ali and Ann Wolf.
Yes. Yeah. I was kind of on the early cuff of when women fighting started. So I had the privilege of doing Lucille Riker, Layla Ali, a few of Christy Martin fights. And this last woman fighter, Holly Holmes, that ended up switching over to UFC and becoming a world champion in UFC. A few years ago, I don't know if you had the opportunity or if you remember when these two fighters fought, Chris Eubanks and Nigel Benn.
I know it was a scrap.
They
I didn't see the fight, but I know they were fighting.
They were fighting. It was a scrap, and I remember watching both the fights, and now we got the sons of both Eubanks.
That's right.
Yes.
That's right.
Yes.
Yeah.
And Ben are fighting each other. And because of their fathers fighting, and now there's been quite a bit of animosity going on. I don't know if you heard, but the animosity has gotten to the point where, you know how before fights they go on this little press tour to promote the fight, and they go to different cities and sometimes different countries, but in one of the face-offs, which you know is a traditional thing that they always do, Chris Eubanks, I don't know how he put this egg in his hand, but as they were doing the little face-off thing, you could see them mouthing words to each other. You couldn't hear it, but you could see their mouths move, and then all of a sudden, Chris caught him across like a slap with the egg in his hand, and all hell broke loose after that.
I guess so.
I mean, the trainers and
Boy, you
Champ-
slapped me. That's number one. Then with an
with
egg.
an egg.
Oh man.
And oh yeah, they wrestled, and Chris Eubanks got into the fining, got fined $10,000.
And he should. And he should.
Oh, you
have.
sure
He
you
should have. Yeah.
Yeah, because you know that in the buildup, and as us as referees, Byrd, I don't know if you did, but I did it a lot. I would stay in touch with all the buildup to the fight, because if there's any animosity between the fighters, something out of the ordinary can happen.
Mhm.
Like you knock him to the ground,
Mhm.
and then from that animosity, you pop him while he's down.
Mhm. Yeah.
We just got to be mindful of that.
Yeah.
And I remember years ago when Oscar De La Hoya fought against Fernando Vargas. There was so much animosity going on.
Mhm.
At the weigh-in, they got like a 4-inch thick piece of plexiglass that they put between them so that there would be no punches,
Yeah.
nothing out of the ordinary done
Yeah.
that was going to stop this fight from happening.
Yeah. Well, you know, there are times when the buildup is like that. I remember when the Mike Tyson, Lennox Lewis,
Yes.
and they had people separate the
Oh,
ring,
Yes.
and people all around in the ring.
Exactly.
You know,
Exactly.
and even when they announced it, when they were announcing them,
Right.
you know, and people believe that a lot of people believe that all of that's just show.
Yes.
Sometimes it ain't show.
Sometimes it ain't show.
Sometimes it is genuine.
It is so genuine. Like I said, for us,
Yeah.
we got to be mindful in the ring because some of that animosity could come out.
Yeah. 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 It definitely will.
Yeah.
And you see it. You see it. You see it. You saw it. Well, with Tyson. You know, they had the folks in the ring. Tyson had bit the
With the
man's
ear
ear
bite.
and, twice.
Yes.
You know, so yeah, it's a lot of times it is real.
Yes.
You know, folks talking about, oh, that's showboating. No, it's not. Sometimes it's real. It's genuine. There's a genuine dislike
Yes.
of each other, and as in our position, we need to know that, because once things get out of control in the ring, things get out of control in the arena.
That's exactly
And-
right.
And we don't want that to happen.
We don't want that to happen.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you for tuning in to the official call.
And to stay connected, subscribe to join our official squad below.